Are we live?
Yep, we'll just give everybody a few minutes to join. It takes them a few seconds. Hi, everyone. You're all very welcome. We're just going to give everyone another minute or two just to join, and then we'll get started. Okay. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. You're all very welcome today. I'd like to introduce you to Alan McLaughlin. Alan McLaughlin is the National Account Manager for Indeed, and he's here to tell us how we can unlock the full potential in terms of Indeed's products and services as recruiters, as agencies going forward with their new structure. You're very welcome, Alan. We also have Martine Pryor in the background. She is the Director of Enterprise Sales for Indeed. If you have any questions at all, please can you put them in the Q&A at the bottom? Martine is going to answer as many of them as she can as we go through. Alan's obviously going to cover a load of others. And then as you were registering, a lot of you put questions into that as well. So they've been incorporated into today's presentation. But if we've missed anything, please put it in the Q&A and either Alan or Martine will cover it. Leave it to you, Alan. You're very welcome.
Cheers, thanks very much. Hey guys, I'll just share my screen here so have that bit ticked off. But yeah, hopefully some of you might have been on the webinar there a couple of weeks ago where we discussed the changes to Indeed. So there's a follow-up essentially because to follow on some of the questions we had and the feedback we had in terms of what to do on Indeed going forward and how you've been using it to date. So what we'll do is we'll look at basically an introduction to Indeed, bring it right back to basics and just run through some of the best practices, how to get you set up correctly. And then I'll give some advice in terms of potentially your own account situations, but obviously not too detailed. And we'll have a Q&A at the end and I'll share my details to be available to link in with me or one of your other account managers after the call, just to follow up and see where to go from there. So I'll jump straight in. It's slide heavy, but it's just to cover everything. So let me just see. So again, this is our mission statement. We'll always start with this here, and Indeed, we help people get jobs just like yourselves. So yeah, that's the focus of this, essentially, to drive applications and get people jobs. So the agenda, I have myself, Andrew works with me on the CS side. He's just unavailable to join today, but any technical stuff, Andrew will be the first point of contact there with myself. But unfortunately, like I said, he's just not available today. So we'll touch on the Indeed basics, how to get your jobs on Indeed, hiring insights, the importance of the simple apply process and solutions. So the first 4 points are going to be the primary, some of the solutions. I'll just give a brief overview, and because the focus of us today is on the sponsored jobs piece and how that's going to be utilized going forward. And just for people who aren't aware, we are the #1 site in Ireland by a good distance. Between ourselves and Glassdoor, we have about 5.8 million visitors a month. Indeed is actually the bulk of that. We're about 5.5 million of that, and varies every month, of course. And we work with about 20,000 companies to provide candidates with jobs. So that's just a quick overview of the size of Indeed in Ireland that some people aren't already aware of. We're #1 in the world as well. We've been in Ireland about 15 years. So again, this is more of an education piece. Some people use it, some people are very familiar with us, but again, it's just trying to bring it back and show everyone the linear process to get it get everything set up as best as possible. So the basics. So Indeed is a global search engine. The what and the where, simple as that, just like Google. You type in what you're looking for and we'll show you as close to that as possible if it's on the site. So this is an example. So search results are based on the relevancy of the job seeker search. So you can see on the right-hand side, we have warehouse op in London, and Greater London is example, and you can see the top 3 are all specifically relevant to what that job seeker has looked for. Time and budget then are the other 2 points that are relevant to the search and to the results. So as long as you have all 3 ticked off, you should be coming across in the right position to generate relevant applications. Indeed works two ways then. We index jobs from employer career pages, agencies like yourselves, job boards, not in Ireland. It's just that's the wider Indeed platform. And then of course you can post directly onto Indeed via an Indeed account, which we call hosted jobs. And from a candidate's perspective, indexed or hosted look exactly the same. It's purely a setup process that yourselves would look at. For example, index jobs would usually be applied, set up directly with an ATS, Broadbean, Bullhorn, and job posters like eRecruit and so forth. So they're the various options you can utilize. And again, some of you guys will be using one or the other, or even a mix of both. So what some of you guys would have been doing then as well is the non-sponsored jobs and utilizing the free platform. And a quick overview of that is that, again, they're free of charge listings and they do fall back and lose visibility, as opposed to sponsored jobs where time and date aren't relevant to how we promote it. So any free jobs will lose visibility, and that's where some of the questions around relevancy and quality will come into, because they will immediately fall back behind a sponsored job and will get no visibility above a sponsored advert. So again, see 15 jobs added to Indeed every second, which is crazy numbers, and that's not just in Ireland. Then it'd be a bit too much. But the point then, I suppose, is the organic piece is gone. I know people have asked about that. So if agencies want their jobs on Indeed going forward, you will have to sponsor them. That was the basis of the last webinar we done a couple of weeks ago. And this is going to walk through how to do that and the best practices when doing that. And again, just fire any questions into the Q&A, but I'll hopefully answer a good few of the questions as we move along. So sponsored jobs is the bread and butter, I think, from Indeed's perspective, in terms of it's where we started. It's our number one product, and it's what most of you guys will be utilizing more than anything else on Indeed. We do have other solutions that are available, and I'll touch on them later, but this is the focus, and this is what we'll look at. Sponsored jobs, again, you'll see the benefits of bringing awareness to your jobs, expanding your reach more quickly, stay visible for longer, obviously, because you'll get, again, more prominent positioning on the platform. Budgeting options, which we'll look at now in a second, and then sponsored jobs are more likely to generate a higher, which they're about 5.5 times, but 60% on average, more likely to generate a qualified application. So that's the primary benefit of having sponsored jobs on the platform. This is some of the questions that came through from yourselves over the registration period. So I've included them here just to touch on, and we'll hopefully answer these as we move along. So, excuse me. There. So how do we manage our costs? How can we use it when dealing with a large number of ads at one time? We need direction on putting a price on per job versus doing an ad campaign, and best way to get monthly value per job ad. So some of these will be answered with the same sort of scenario. There's a few different variations there. So this is just some examples that were coming up quite commonly. You probably recognize the one you put in yourself, but I'll touch on all of these now as we progress. And like I said, there's a Q&A at the end where I can go through some of this in a bit more detail. Sorry. So the whole process is try to be as simple as possible. We used to have a lot of different products running lots of different ways that you could look at different approaches to how you get your jobs on Indeed and how you reach your candidates, but we wanted to simplify that as possible and get one singular experience from the jobs positioning, the sponsored jobs front. So it's looking at your objectives. What is your own objectives? So we look at it from a campaign objective. So campaign is an internal phrase that we use when looking at a job. So a job campaign could be a single job, or it could be multiple jobs, or it could be an account with multiple campaigns split out different ways. And we'll set it up and work with you based on what your objective is, such as the balance campaign, where your budget is distributed across all your jobs evenly, or a maximum campaign where you're just prioritizing jobs to get as many applications as possible. How you're set up and the target audience of your jobs will determine what of the options will be best suited to you. So the balanced one, again, if you've got multiple different segments within the business, all within similar markets in terms of candidate skill levels, experience levels. A balanced budget there would ensure you've got suitable spend and suitable exposure for all of those roles as often as possible based on the level of your budget. The maximum campaign will be suited for maybe seasonal work or high volume requirements. Say, for example, if you're looking for drivers, warehouse ops, hospitality staff, certain types of roles, and you want all your budget just focus on as many applications as possible because it's a high priority need, that would be the better option there. But you could run both sort of campaigns within your account, and the budgets will be determined based on the requirements that you have and the objectives that you have. Again, the objective campaigns focus on reaching your hiring goals, or in your case, your shortlisting and pipeline goals. So it's a singular experience to create, manage, and report on the campaign performance. So you can see on the right, get the most total applications for your budget while balancing, and get the most total without balancing, and just get as much visibility as possible or much applications as possible. These are really easy to set up. Through myself and Andrew, we'll talk through requirements with agencies. Obviously, everything changes all the time with an agency day to day. New requirements come in, clients change, priorities change. So, as Andrew loves to say it, campaigns are living campaigns. They're open to change any given point. Budget changes, job changes, setup changes. We can accommodate that based on what your needs are, and as long as it's going to work in line with the performance goals of it, we'll happily work with you on that. Again, you can see the last point, continual optimization of your budget and looking at the ROI goals. That's really the whole purpose of managing and making changes as we go. Again, just further points on the balance and maximum. Again, I don't think I need to go into that any further, but happy to answer questions on that towards the end of the presentation itself. Again, identifying your objectives fits in here. Like if you don't have specific goals in terms of certain role types or certain candidate priorities, the balance one would be the best option. And like I said, it balances the spends and clicks more effectively, and it avoids one job or several jobs cannibalizing your budget and utilizing spend and at the detriment of other roles that you want to generate applications for. Again, the maximum then is the exact opposite of that. Essentially, it just wants to drive as many applications based on the candidate population, and Indeed is a supply and demand model in terms of candidate traffic, high volume candidate traffic, where the demand is if there's demand for candidates and there's a high volume of candidates coming to the site looking for jobs. If you've got some of those jobs, we'll push that out as much as possible to drive the applications based on if, for example, you have the maximum in place. We'll do that obviously with the balance as well, but obviously it's weighted based on the priority and the setup of your campaign. Again, this just shows how easy it can be to create a campaign, whether you're self-serve or working through ourselves. Again, you can see there's 6 steps essentially. Create the campaign, select the objective, add the jobs, schedule and budget, and the trusted media network, which will send your jobs out to all our associated domains and platforms to give you a broader reach offsite. And that's where a lot of pipeline will come that way as well. And then hit publish, simple as that. There's a bit more to it in the back end in terms of when myself and Andrew are working on it, because the schedule and the budget is where we'll come in and look at job selection to help you figure out what sort of budget is going to work, how long it should run for, and all those other questions that fall in between. The other part of this is creating the right content, because your budget only goes so far if you don't have the right content on Indeed. And the job title and job description are key here, because it's a search engine, as I mentioned at the start. So if you're creating jobs and campaigns where you've got convoluted job titles, sort of internal acronyms and stuff like that, it's not going to benefit you at the end of the day. It's just going to appear in the wrong search results and generate potential costs against the wrong type of candidate. So quality and relevance was asked in one of the questions, and this is a very important part of that. No matter, like I said, what your budget is, if you don't have the quality content or job titles, it's a waste of time essentially. A few key points on the job titles will be 10 or so words capped for desktop and about 5 words for mobile. A few of the key points in terms of where they're too long is keyword overkill. Again, headline copy that's not suited for online searches, and then using such information as company name and location, salaries, various other points in the job title itself, because all that information is automatically pulled into the job. So if you're adding anything into the job title section on Indeed other than the specific title that you're targeting, that's something to remove, and that will immediately improve the positioning and the quality of relevancy that you're getting. The job descriptions, same rules generally apply. Obviously, the word count is a bit different. 100 to 325 words. Obviously, it's a huge variance, but it'll depend on the type of role. Some companies, obviously, there was one I worked for, a financial services company, when I was recruiting, like a 6 or 7 page job spec. It's not suitable for Indeed. There's a lot of repetition, a lot of information there that isn't going to benefit you in the day, like soft skills, stuff like that. It's not really going to benefit you in a job spec on Indeed or anywhere really. And if you get the job specs right for Indeed, to be fair, you're only going to get them right for the likes of Google and other search engines as well. So these guidelines will apply off Indeed as well. Again, the benefit of having quality job descriptions is right there. 30% more applicants than other job postings. So it's a huge uplift there. And the more applicants you're getting, the better. Drives your costs down, increases your pipeline, and hopefully increases your placement fees. Again, same again, information that is just not going to help you with your job description, stock content, in terms of, like I said, soft skills, like communication skills, stuff like that. Inflated descriptions, such as the example I gave on the financial services company, and again, internal language, acronyms, stuff like that. A good one I always sort of highlight as well is when creating a job description, people will always say the ideal candidate or experienced candidate will have. And the word candidate, I don't think I've ever seen it come up in a search result in terms of a data report that we've done, because no one has ever searched for a candidate when looking for a job. And the only job it probably should ever be included in is potentially a recruitment consultant or something within that line. So an easy organic way to tidy up and get your keywords in there would be to remove candidate and include the job title and say the ideal, say customer service rep or whatever it may be, will have, and that just tidies it up, removes again irrelevant information from a description, and gets a clearer sort of outline of the role, gets the keywords up, and again has it more targeted at the ideal candidate. We do best practice training on this information with our clients. Some of you may have had us speak with you about this before, and it's something we can arrange if needed with recruiters just to walk through, because again, sometimes it's the more experienced recruiters or the long-term recruiters that are stuck in their ways, for lack of a better word, and they'll be used to doing it one way where it may not be the best way for, I suppose, the current market. So happy to look at that as an option, just to make sure you are using us the right way. And again, like I said, if you're using Indeed the right way, it'll only benefit you on other platforms from a job posting perspective. This hiring insight ties into all this because it helps you, again, create the right content and see what the market is like in terms of demand and job seeker availability. Some of you may have used our hiring insights, had a walk through it before, but if you've looked at our hiring insights, it gives you good information in terms of what your competitors are doing, what your competitors are generating in terms of engagement, what the keywords are for candidates in terms of how they're ending up on a certain role. Again, it falls back into having the right content, having the right job title and job descriptions, because if you don't have it correct there, candidates just may never see your jobs. So using our hiring insights analytics will help you identify what's right in the market, what's going to benefit you, how you're going to generate good pipeline by creating the right content. And again, it gives other information such as average salaries and stuff like that as well. So you can see if you've got a role and your client is saying the salary is X amounts, but everyone else is paying, say, 10K higher, you'll be able to give them good feedback in terms of, well, the chance of filling this role anytime quick may not work for you. So again, this is how it looks. It's in the analytics tab on the Indeed account that you have. Again, just like the search bar on the Indeed platform, type in the job title and the location, and it'll generate a whole host of different metrics and trends that you can review. And let me see how I got a more detail one here. Yeah, sorry, it must have left that one off this presentation. But what it will give you an indication of is, say, the number of jobs that, and again, use August 2023 is this the date on this one, the number of jobs that were live within that month. So it's always about a week after the new calendar month starts that we'll get the updated information from the previous month. And how we determine and make recommendations is based on market trends. And this is what we refer to in addition to our own back end data. But we can see the job volume, how many job seekers are per job, how many job seekers total. Again, the job seekers per job is a good one because it'll give you an indication of how competitive a role is, and the more competitive, the more budget would be recommended. Again, the average salary, how candidates are searching, and I'll touch on that in a bit as well. The number of employers, the top search terms by click. So again, using care assistant as that example there, we may see that healthcare assistant, care or support worker as examples, that's what was searched on, and that's how the candidate ended up on that care assistant job. So utilizing that information will give you a good indication of this would be a suitable job title for this role, and not using, say, a stock title that was given to you by a client or something that historically you used before. The top employers by clicks then as well is also really beneficial because you can see who your competitors are for these candidates and what they're doing, how they're getting results in terms of how much results they're getting, I should say. So again, it gives you an indication of what's needed. And then speaking to myself or a different account manager, whoever's looking after you guys, will help you determine then, well, they're doing X, Y, or Z. How can I get to that level? And we can walk you through that. Again, it's just very straightforward in terms of occupation and location, and it's self-serve, but we can always walk through it with our clients then as well. Yeah, again, just a few more points on it. This is not what it looks like for some reason. It's a very stock image, but again, see how you compare to the competition, see what's attracting the ideal candidate. So again, that goes to the search terms and the keywords, and then it gives you an idea of the overall market in terms of supply and demand, and indeed budgets and setups are entirely based on supply and demand within the market. So again, this all follows through the apply process. Again, it's such an important part of the process and getting your jobs up there. So ideally, as little clicks as possible is the goal. So you can see here in today's competitive market, job seeker experience is more important than ever. So giving them ease of apply and straightforward applies is the key. You can see there 56 of applications are not mobile friendly. So getting mobile friendly, getting that streamlined apply process is so important. And what we suggest then is looking at using Indeed and Indeed Apply as the primary base. Obviously there's outliers there, but I'll touch on that now. So again, looking at the job seeker journey, when it is complicated, like lengthy and redundant forms, having to create multiple accounts, which no one enjoys, document uploads, redirects on multiple screens, which is not ideal for mobile, inconsistent formatting, which has come up multiple times from clients, and the application experience, again, not mobile friendly. So if you think about it from a real world perspective, if you're on your phone and consider where most people are searching now and when they're searching, a lot of people search on the commute, at their lunch, not necessarily sitting at a desktop to apply to a job. So having them have to go off-site, apply through a lengthy application form, or have to upload a document from a different part of their desktop, their mobile, whatever it may be, it slows down the process and does see a huge drop off. Again, we can see 50% of job seekers abandon applications that take longer than 10 minutes. And we also know then from our own data that 4 or 5 candidates will just drop off if they have to move off-site from Indeed in terms of the application process. So it makes a huge difference, and we've some client testimonials to that as well. If anyone wants to have a look directly at some of the differences in numbers and real world results from that. So it's very important to look at and to consider when you are setting up your jobs. Indeed Apply, as I mentioned, is the go-to. It's a straightforward process. You can get it set up on your index jobs or your hosted jobs, depending on your preference, and it drives application numbers massively. It makes such a difference. I'm just trying to find the exact number there. So yeah, I think it's again 60% off the top of my head. I'm after losing the numbers off the page there on the screen. But about 60%, I think, increase in completed applications when you have Indeed Apply enabled. It reduces the clicks. You can enable screening questions. There's so many little tools and intricacies to it that makes it a much smoother process for the candidate and gets you through the process, gets them through the process much quicker and gets the application to you a lot quicker. And it's the preferable method for candidates because they've got their CV on their phone, on their desktop, whatever it may be. And don't, like I say, have to go and do convoluted application processes or application forms. So again, I mentioned mobile there a few minutes ago. It makes such a difference in terms of performance. See the last point on the page, 70% of applications submitted on Indeed are from mobile. So getting your jobs mobile friendly, Indeed Apply will obviously help that straight off the bat. All hosted jobs are opted into that, but if you're indexed, on Indeed, it's worth speaking to myself or your account manager. Make sure you are mobile optimized because again, you could see a huge drop off in traffic if that's not the case, and it's something to consider looking at straight after today's call in particular. And again, consider reducing the application process and time because again, you know yourself, on the phones these days, everyone is time conscious and what's the word I'm looking for? Short-sighted in terms of how much time they want to put into things, I think is probably the best way to put it. And anything that's considered a bit difficult or a bit complicated is ignored, and they'll move on to the option, which we have options on Indeed in terms of job options for candidates. So they'll move on to the option that's a bit easier when it's very similar or potentially the same role that you guys are offering. I'll touch on this briefly in terms of the solutions that we provide other than sponsored jobs, but this is be better held in a discussion format with your account manager or myself off this call because solutions vary and requirements vary. So happy to have a more detailed discussion on any of these. But we don't just offer sponsored jobs. It is, like I said, our bread and butter, but we have other tools available to support your requirements. And again, you can see 51% of job seekers prefer find their job on an online job platform. So as we're the number one in Ireland, number one worldwide, it's best to get optimized on our platform for that. How the process works then in terms of the job seeker journey, we want to create awareness of your job. So reaching job seekers is the key, getting awareness, getting that engagement in terms of are they going to want to apply to you or just seeing your ad, so impressions, clicks, all that sort of stuff. And then the conversion piece, which is the goal for anyone here, I'm assuming, is getting applications. And obviously brand awareness and all the other points that come with it are important, but conversion, pipeline, and placements, I can imagine is number one for most people on this call. And we can see the tools you have there on the right with our branded ads, our branding hub for that awareness and engagement piece. Then sponsored jobs, which we looked at, hiring events, our hiring platform, and our Indeed resume, which is now branded as smart sourcing tools to generate pipeline. Again, I'm not going to go into detail on all of those today because they'd be standalone conversations. And again, we could either look at a follow-up to this or have a conversation directly with ourselves. But one of the things we look at, which tied into sponsored jobs, is the featured employer piece, where again you've got that branded content, you've got front-end visibility, and again it just builds on your sponsored setup and gets more engagement across your profile, across your account, and across all your jobs. The Indeed CV platform again is it's a great tool. Our Match Candidates feature and our generative AI tools that have been implemented only recently are proven great in terms of feedback that we're receiving. And again, about 250 million CVs across the world. I think there's 1.2 million CVs in Ireland as of last check. And the response rate for staffing agents in Ireland, again, off the top of my head, is about 54%, 55%. So again, if you utilize our sponsored jobs and our CV search function, you should have all the boxes ticked in terms of pipeline generation or being able to generate the right pipeline. So again, have a chat with anyone who wants to discuss this on top of the sponsored jobs piece. And that's the slides. I've left some time for the Q&A. I've got a list of questions from Anna. Hopefully answers some of those in that. I know some of them are a bit more specific in terms of specific costs questions and campaign management questions. Happy to throw it open now for the remainder of the webinar just to answer any questions that you may have on those. again, being conscious of the fact that I can't get too specific on particular campaigns or particular accounts. And anything then that may be better suited offline, happy to, like I said, have a chat after. So you're on mute there, I think, Anna. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Don't know what's going on with my headphones today, but mind of their own. Okay, I see Martine has been answering a couple of questions there. Just off the top of that, the Indeed apply option, is there an extra cost for that?
No, no extra cost for Indeed apply. It's just making sure you have it. As I said, hosted jobs are automatically opted into that. You can create an external URL if you need to go to an external platform, which some of our clients will. Like public sector roles will sometimes have an external application process that has to be completed, and that can be enabled on hosted and index as well. But Indeed
Okay.
apply can be utilized with anyone.
Yeah,
Again,
because I
there
think
can
that's
be,
quite a good option that maybe people hadn't considered. I know I probably didn't.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah, you're dead right. Like so many people are on their phones. Like even my own kids say it to me, "Oh no, we're applying on our phone," and
I,
away they go. Um, I know you went through a lot of tips on how to improve quality of the job advert and reducing the number of characters and everything else, which was really good. Is there, you had a balanced campaign or a maximum campaign? Is there one or other that would be better or worse? Or how did somebody decide which would be for them or their company?
And the first port of call probably be to have a chat with ourselves and see which objective would work best. But it comes down to the market that you're in. And I gave the example of, say, warehouse operatives and things like that, where there's a high volume of candidates in the market. It's a high volume potential high volume role if that's what you have.
Mhm.
And if it's the only type of role that you're looking to run, or the only type of roles you're looking to run where you're constantly just looking for maximum volume, that'd be the best option. But then you've got examples of some of the other agencies where you'll have multiple segments within the business running different types of jobs all the time. And it may be a case that you have some of those types of roles, but then you've got more experienced roles. You might have software developers in one team and then warehouse ops in the other, for example. If we were to combine them and instead of a maximum campaign, the warehouse operatives would just eat all the budget and generate all the applications because there's more of them on the site. And again, it's all
Okay.
about candidate traffic. So a balanced campaign would be more suited there because it would ensure the budget will be split evenly as possible anyway, across all the jobs. There is a bit of more intricacies when it's really diverse role types. And again, that's why I recommend having a chat with ourselves to see what would be the best option to generate. Because you may have more than one campaign running. And a lot of my clients do, like I've a couple of clients running 14, 15 campaigns within their account based on different segments of the business. And each will have their own determined budget that will run across the entire month and generate the applications for the roles that are included. And the roles and the budgets that are included in a campaign, if it's not specifically based to the business unit, is looked at from a market segment. So say high candidate volume, high job volume versus low candidate volume. High, again, could be high job volume again, but it's all based on supply and demand within the market at any given time and the level of competition.
Okay. I see. I mean, you have covered so much, and I can see Martine is answering loads of questions there. I'm going to try and take a copy of all those questions because I'm sure they'd be relevant to everyone else as well in the call. And
Yeah.
somebody asked about getting your slides afterwards, and I can share those with everybody. Martine said it was okay to share them. Um, so somebody, you probably covered this, but how can the new way of putting ads on be used to increase relevant and quality applications? I know you talked about how recruiters can make their adverts, kind of
Mm.
with the keywords and make them a lot more succinct so that, they're easily found by, people looking for jobs. But how can you ensure that what's coming back in terms of the CVs are, a better quality?
Yeah, it comes back to one of the first slides I showed in terms of the relevancy of your job title and description to what the candidates are searching for. So, what your target audience is, are you generating the right advert and right job title for those candidates? The timing of your advert in terms of is there candidates in the market at that given time and the level of budget that you put behind it. So, from the organic piece, if you're looking at it as a comparison, if you had a free job or organic job, whatever way you want to phrase it, the level of quality and relevancy is going to be dissipating within seconds of going live because of the volume of jobs that are sponsored and are always going to get pushed ahead of you. So by having the right setup in terms of your budget, your content, that will improve the relevancy straight away. Again, the budget, you can self-serve and predetermine your own budget. But by using the hiring insights and speaking to an account manager, you get a much better indication of what level of budget will be required for certain job types. And that'll help you then get a much better return in terms of quality and overall application numbers then as well.
Okay, and if you didn't have much of a budget, say you were just starting out, what's the kind of the average price per job?
Varies
If
completely. It's completely market dependent. So there's no standalone set budget that we can say is this is what you put on a job on Indeed today, and this will get you X amount of results because it's purely down to supply and demand in the market at a given time. So what your budget may get you this month may get the exact same the next month or may vary because there's a higher demand for those candidates or a lower demand for those candidates. So again, having a look at the hiring insights for competition levels and that side of things, but again, speaking to ourselves, we can give it a much clearer picture on the costs that could be involved. In software developers, are going to cost more to hire one software developer than it will to hire one warehouse operative. So we're paid for performance. We don't just want to give you a cost to post a job on Indeed and leave you to it. You pay for the performance, and the performance will be determined by how much you invest. And the more you invest, the more you get out, essentially.
Okay. I think you've probably covered everything, and anything that was on the list you haven't covered, I can see Martina's been covering here. So I don't know, did you have any parting words you wanted to give anyone?
No, I know some of the questions were there's a few priority questions and a few questions in terms of potential issues that people have with their own campaigns potentially in the past. Again, happy to have a chat with anyone. My email was on the original slide, and a lot of you probably have my email from
I'll send
previously.
it out to everyone again with this. Actually, it'll be on your slides when I send them out to everyone
Okay.
after the webinar.
Yeah, so like I'm happy to answer any of those questions. I think one of the big questions that come up in terms of is there any way to gain back the traffic we lost from the free advertising? And the only way to do that will be to invest. So again, it's probably not what everyone wants to hear when they're getting free traffic for so long, but we have to
Yeah.
look at it from a realistic point of view, and that is the answer. But again, I'm happy to look at what level of investment will be required and the best way to use Indeed then going forward.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for all of that. If any other questions come in, I'll pop them over to you, see if we can get a few answers. But I think between the slides and what Martina's covered in the Q&A, that should answer most people's queries about the platform and going forward with it.
Perfect. Well, yeah, like I said, I'll have a look at the questions, and if you want to contact me directly, I'm happy to have a chat and walk through the more nuances of how the budgets work.
Perfect. All right. Thanks so much, Alan.
No
Thanks,
worries.
Martina, in the
Cheers, Anna.
background. Thanks,
Have a
everyone,
good
for
day.
attending.